Welcome, everyone. I'm Angela McCants, founder of Season Conversations, and we're so glad you all could be here today. As you know, this is October, and we just trying to emphasize that trick or treat is sometimes done every day of the year. So we don't want that much trick or treating, do we? So we want to help you and help ourselves figure out how do we avoid the scams and the tricks that happen on a daily basis, really. So with that in mind, we have our two honored guests, Kobe Bullock and Officer Lita Snellgrove, and they're going to tell you a little bit about who they are and what they do, and then we're going to talk about the top scams in the area. And then you'll have a chance to ask your questions. So look at your forms here. If you think of a question, go ahead and write it down at the bottom. And then when I finish asking questions, it'll be your turn. All right? Any questions right now that you might have? Like where the bathroom is, any home? You got your phones turned off? Okay. All right. Hold on. Make sure I've got mine turned off. Yeah. We do this once a month. Our goal is to empower, educate, and equip. So we would love to have your feedback before you leave. There's questions that we ask, and it's not tied to you anywhere. We just need feedback to know topics, how you like this one, and if you have any takeaways, we'd love to hear what they were as well. All right, well, with that in mind, Kobe, let's start with you. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us about you and the organization that you represent? And Kobe, this is your seat.
So front and center.
Yes, there you go.
I'm Kobe Bullock with HSTX Title. I am the branch manager there. So anything title related, real estate, hopefully I can help answer your guys' questions on scams that we're seeing, fraud, those sort of items that if you guys have any questions. But I've been in real estate since 2013 and right here in the Park Cities, and I live out in Forney. Thanks for having me.
All right, yes, Lita Snellgrove, and currently I'm working in patrol. I have worked crime prevention for University Park Police Department. I also help out as the public information officer. So I do a number of different things, a little bit of training, I go to the range, I'm a range officer. So a little bit of whatever needs to be done, I pretty much can help out with the police department, what needs to be done. And I've been with the police department for 20 years. So.
While we're doing introductions, I failed to mention our legacy partners. So Dave Perry Miller is one, Ebby Companies, and Tana and I are with Dave Perry Miller. And then if you are a legacy partner or plan to be, please stand so you can introduce yourself as well. Okay, Shanice.
Hi, I'm Shanice Lee. My company is Harvest Estate and Appraisal Services.
Okay. Did everybody hear her?
No.
Okay.
Good morning. My company is Harvest Estate and Appraisal Services. I help my clients to understand the value of items such as antiques, art collections, and collectibles. Again, my name is Shanice Lee.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Steve Oliphant. I'm with Dallas Supreme Relocation, and we're a move management company.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ashley, and I am with Carrington International Corporation, and we help our clients find insurance.
No?
Andrew Siegel with the John Cluggers of Greater Dallas. We help families who are downsizing So we remove the items that they no longer want or need. We try to donate as many of them as possible. If we can't donate them, we try to recycle or try to keep them out of the landfill and get the family the donation receipt. So sometimes it makes it easier to let go of some items.
Awesome. And like I said, I'm Angela McCants, broker associate with Dave Perry Miller, and I specialize with right sizing, and I'm a certified senior advisor. All right, well, my first question to the panelists is this. We've got a lot of scams, but what is the very top one on your radar?
So right now for title, it would be if you guys are in a real estate transaction, we're seeing a lot of fraud scams where if you guys are emailing closing agents or a title company or your real estate agent, you want to be extremely careful with what you send via email. You want to make sure that if it's something personal, your social security number, date of birth, driver's license, anything that we would consider non-public information, that before you send it, you want to ask for a secure email or a secure portal before sending that information. Or if you'd like, give it directly to your agent and have them hand deliver it, or you guys hand deliver it to the title company. That's kind of our biggest fraud and scam that we are seeing right now, especially going into the holidays. Everybody's moving faster, not paying quite as attention to what they should be with that stuff. But once it's out there on the internet, if somebody's hacked into your email or watching somebody else's, just leaves you guys vulnerable, and we want to make sure you guys are protected.
Can you give us an example of when, that might have happened and prevented a closing?
Yeah, absolutely. So an example of that would be for us as a title company, we'll use our wiring instructions for the biggest is what example I can tell you is we're going to send those to clients via secure email. You won't receive those unsecure, and then you'd open those on your computer and then wire it to the
I meant like, what happened?
Oh,
What was
so the end
problem?
result. So
Not the positive thing right now. We want to.
The negative.
What are we trying to avoid?
So we're trying to avoid the hacker inserting themselves into your emails via what they call a spoofed email, and then if they come across that spoofed email, then they can change those wiring instructions and then let it go into your inbox. Well, you never see it, I never see it. So if we've sent it to you via secure email and now you've sent it to your bank or whatever, that hacker has inserted themselves and they've changed it. Well, now you're wiring it to somebody overseas. Well, if you're doing that the day of closing or the day before closing, and you think you've wired it to the title company, then it could be your biggest assets. I mean, home is a lot of people's biggest purchase of their life. And if that money's gone, when you send a Fed wire, it's gone if you don't catch it within 24 hours. And sometimes sooner, because if it hits the fraudulent account, they usually will start sending it to about 30 different accounts all over, and then it's hard for the FBI, everybody to get involved and get that money back to you.
And
So
a down payment could be as much as,
it
I
can-
mean,
yeah.
there has been a story recently where someone's lost money.
Yes, so
Not
No.
really with HTS,
Yeah.
not with your company,
but yeah, we see it.
do you know
we
about
hear
how much that was, how much?
we hear
some of
horror
you know?
stories about it, and we've seen or heard of people losing anywhere from 50,000 to this wasn't here in Texas, but I have contacts in Colorado where a title company lost $5 million. So it can be anywhere from a small portion to a huge amount, but these people out there on the internet are watching and looking for numbers and unsecured information to insert themselves.
I talked to a real estate agent, and she said that they had a closing date set, and then she got this email from the person she was working with that said, we need to change the date of the closing, and here's the information to transfer the money.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, this didn't sound right, you know? And so then she texted the person, and they said, oh no, we haven't changed anything. We're still on the regular closing date. And here she was getting ready to send like $1 million, you know, transfer.
So,
And then when you say small amount, I don't think anyone
It-
thinks any
it-
amount is
Yeah.
small.
It could
When
be
you're the
$50,
million away,
but
right?
if they
Ah.
if they get into
Yeah.
your emails and access your social, your date of birth, well, then they can access everything at that point. They security questions to get into other accounts, and so that's one thing we strive and want to make sure you all are aware, agents are aware, to just protect that non-public information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cody. How about you, Lita? What's your top?
Oh, well, top, it's kind of hard to, you know, narrow down,
Yeah.
but I've had incidents where we get a call and they said that they got a call from their grandson. The connection was not good, and he said he was in jail. He needs some money to get out of jail. Yes, heard about those? Yes, and they need to go to the store, buy a green dot card. And once you purchase that card, then I'm gonna, you know, need that number on the back of the card for payment for, you know, him to get out of jail. So that's one of many that we see.
I've heard that one a lot.
A lot,
Where
yes.
you'll get even a letter from a relative saying, hey, I need money, XYZ, can you send me a gift card
Right.
for it, food or something? And it'll have your relative's name on it, but the grandparents or whoever relative will just go ahead and do that and without it confirming. So
Right.
always confirm.
Right. Also a warrant, they'll call and say there's a warrant for your arrest. And so instead of the officer coming and showing up, you can pay this now. So then they would get you to get the card, give the number on the back, and then they immediately take the money, and then little do you know that there wasn't actually a warrant for your arrest.
All right, the next top. I know with closing, you usually warn our clients about those letters that they get.
Yes, so that's my next, and this one's very common in a real estate transaction. So whenever you close a property, us as the title company, we record the warranty deed, and if there's a loan, a deed of trust, well, that's going to have your guys' address on the document that's recorded of record, because they have to know where the tax bill and everything goes. Well, what happens after that is these scammers will watch the public records, and it's usually about 2 weeks after you closed on a property, you'll start getting a bunch of junk mail. It'll be people asking you to tell you what you paid for the property. There'll be people asking you to refinance. The biggest one that I see, and I've had an agent here recently come to closing. It hasn't happened to anybody I know. Again, thank the Lord. But what they did was you'll get a welcome letter from your current mortgage holder, and then a goodbye letter from them. Well, what that means is they've sold the loan to a large corporation like PennyMac, Wells Fargo, one of those that services the loans for you. Well, that's not really who the letter's coming from. Clients are not calling their loan officer and confirming. Same situation as with the wire. You start making your monthly payments to the person who sent that letter. Well, in 2 or 3 months, you're getting a delinquent letter from the actual loan servicer or who's controlling the loan, and saying, well, you're behind on your payments. You're like, no, I'm not. I've been making them. Well, you didn't follow up with the loan officer to make sure that's really who needs to be making the payments too. That's a really big topic that I stress to experienced home buyers and for new home buyers. That's one of the biggest things I stress at the closing table.
Very good, thank you. What's your next?
Next one, we have kind of a distraction technique where you might have someone that comes to your door and they may say that there is a water leak or a gas leak in the neighborhood, and we need to come into your house, check and make sure you're not having any problems. Make sure you're not having any gas leak in the house. And so while you're working with that person that's checking in the house to make sure you don't have a gas leak, another person comes in, goes to the bedroom and starts looking for jewelry, valuables, so distractions. So that's another one that we deal with.
Officer Snellgrove, I've known there were some children that have come and have been in our neighborhoods doing things, you know, getting you to answer the door and asking random questions. Is there anything with that? Do they sometimes use children? Or
Well, we see a lot of people that come into the neighborhood that are trying to sell magazines or get donations for a group. So we have a policy that you have to fill out, you know, if you're going to be selling something, soliciting, then you've got to go through the police department, fill out an application, and then we do a check on that person to make sure that they're legitimate, they don't have anything in their background that would, you know, that we would want to keep them from going door to door. And then we give them a ID saying, I've been checked by the city, this is my ID to solicit and go door to door. So we get many calls on, you know, some people that are coming through the neighborhood, they don't have an ID, and so we'll get a call on them, so we go out and talk to them, check, see what they're doing, tell them they have to have a permit in order to solicit and go door to door.
That's good to know. Is that, your university park, I live in Frisco, is that pretty much something that all cities around here do?
You know, I'm not familiar with how other cities do that, I just know how we do it here. Yeah, so you can check with the city, it could be something in place that some people may not know about, but yes.
And sometimes your HOAs can have some rules as well.
That it's okay for them to go up to the door and leave a card. Leave a card as long as they're not knocking and soliciting for something.
How about, you got another one for us?
Kind of think the next that we see. Probably the next for a real estate transaction would be appraisal district. So for filing your homestead exemptions, with filing your homestead exemption we'll use Dallas County for example, it's going to be free for you all to do whenever you purchase a home. And after closing, similar to like the prior example, what scammers will do will send you a letter saying, hey, we'll file your homestead exemption for you for $50, $100, $150. Well, it's like I said, it's free for you guys. It takes 10-15 minutes to fill out the form and submit your driver's license. But the scammers, they send all this information and it's a quick $1 for them whenever you guys can do it for free. That's another big one that we see.
I've seen an appraisal once that a client had paid for before I got involved with them. And the appraisal wasn't right. I mean, they used zip codes from properties were from all over the place.
Yeah.
And they paid for that. So is that a scam or was that just some, I didn't know if that was something that typically could happen.
It should not. They should be appraising based off of the comps in that area of the home and relative homes in that area where a lender will want to see the comparable in that, what they're going to be insuring and putting the down payment on. So I'd say that they were not doing that correct.
I got a question.
Absolutely.
Homestead exemption, how do you qualify for that, or is it age?
So the homestead, if it's your primary residence, you can file for the homestead exemption on it. You can only have one homestead in the U.S. So if you have a home here, you have another, we'll use Missouri or something, you can only have one homestead. But for other exemptions, there's also, the most common are over 65 and a veteran's exemption. So those two are very beneficial to you guys, to anybody that, and those can be applied, I believe, to one property as well. And you can move those exemptions, these exemptions, if you sell one property, you can move it to the next property within a day or two, as long as you have the required information.
What's the benefit of that to the homeowner?
Your taxes, your property taxes will decrease significantly. The over 65 exemption, it will lock your tax rate for the ISD at that year's amount, and then it should increase over the years, and it really, it's a big benefit. The veterans exemption, I've seen, if you are a veteran and you file for an exemption like that where you don't pay any taxes at all, depending on disability through the veterans.
Do they have to be disabled vets?
No.
Just a veteran?
Just a
Just
veteran.
having served 4 years or
So
20 or how
you would
long?
have to submit the information to the county, and then they would be the ones to determine the amount and how it would be structured for those property taxes.
Also, I had a question on title theft. I keep hearing commercials on title theft. Is there anything to that where you basically buy insurance against title theft?
So we as a title company are ensuring that if you are purchasing the property, then you're going to be owning it free and clear with the first mortgage if you are purchasing with a loan. So coming through us, that's what we are ensuring. I have heard stories about where somebody has falsified documents, filed a deed of record saying that forged another seller's into their name, and then trying to sell the property. I have heard stories about that, and I know that there was a big article about a year ago that came out where that had been happening, especially on smaller properties, abandoned properties that people aren't paying much attention to, that they thought they could get away with it. But as a title company, we look for documents, the way the warranty deeds, what we look for is a warranty deed which conveys the title to you. The way the document reads, we have specific language in there that shows if it was done through a title company or was insured, and so that's how those were caught. But
So
yes.
how do you prevent against it?
So preventing against it is very difficult. It would be the title company's job to make sure that they've done their due diligence and really researched and examined the title and the recorded documents. That's a great question.
All right, so also talked to a lot of people about, they discover, well, they get something in the mail and it says they are past due on a bill. So you haven't paid this, like you went to AT&T and you got a phone and you're 2 months behind on the payment. And then they say, well, I can go to AT&T, didn't get a phone, and then they discover that someone has gotten their information and gone up and made a purchase to get a phone. And the bill did come to them eventually to pay the bill. So then that's a big problem.
I think that can relate to what I was talking about earlier with the social security number, your driver's license, that non-public information. If you've sent it over the internet or in an email to somebody where they've acquired it or it's been hacked somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I've gotten about 3 of those calls saying that I owe Amazon $1,300 for a computer that was purchased and stuff like that. I just hang up. Figure if I get a bill, I'll deal with it
Yes.
then.
Angie?
Yes.
I know I'm not on the panel, but I did want to offer some information around your question about appraisers.
Okay.
I'm an appraiser by training, but I do the content in the home. However, when you're talking about real property appraisers. They are licensed by the state. And then your question about how they wrote the report and questionability, you can check with the organizations that they're certified by. And you all also can check with the Appraisal Foundation. At the federal level, they oversee all various disciplines of appraisers.
Awesome.
That's great.
Well, that's a great segue into prevention. So are there some resources that we can use to help besides, so one is the title company themselves. They do the work for title.
Correct.
And should have things in place to protect your money when you're working with them. But not everyone works with the title company initially, do they? Or do they have to? It's not, a lot of people are being approached by individuals wanting to buy their properties. Are there any scams surrounding that? Because I know that a lot of times some people are renting a house that isn't theirs. Have you all run into any of those?
I haven't on my end with that, but for whenever you say to protect yourselves, what I would say is always do reach out directly, do a search on the internet. That's what they've done to find the information to contact you or to provide that scam. But do research, find the phone number online, call it directly and say, did you send this bill? Is this true? Depending on what it is, if you think it's real, that's what I would do. If not, then you know it has nothing to do with you. I would throw it away and completely ignore it, because you'll know if you've had that made that purchase, like the laptop. You'll know if you made that purchase. You'll know it's a scam. Reaching out to you during tax season, one that everybody's probably aware of is the phone calls about the IRS saying that you're behind and that you owe funds. The IRS is never going to call you. It's going to be a letter. And if you try to call the IRS, you're going to be on hold forever before you even get a hold of them. So it's very unlikely that you're not going to get a phone call from the IRS. So all those phone calls.
I was going to add, I actually just logged onto the IRS website the other day, and they've redesigned it, and it's actually very user-friendly. So you go in and you create what's called a real ID, which is a more secure ID, and it takes a couple minutes to do, but then it will show you basically all the payments you've made, all the money that is due, all of that right on irs.gov. So you can hopefully trust it. Because I've made that phone call, and you're like, okay, I'll just put my phone here and I'll get to work, because you're just waiting for someone to answer. But I was very impressed by the user-friendliness of a government site, which is rare.
It's good to know. Thank you.
That's one thing I would do to protect yourself. The irs.gov, you know that's a real website. Their phone number is going to be on there. You could call it if you really think that the prior phone call was real or not. Same with any other of those scams.
Do you have any other resources for us?
So when it comes to the distractions, people coming to your door, I always recommend that, you look out, you don't know the person. I don't recommend you opening the door. I just talk to them through the door, if they're, trying to say they're looking for a gas leak, you'll say, okay, well, just give me a minute, I need to verify that. Make a call to the city. They're just going to try to get you out of the house to show you something in the backyard that's wrong, or just talk to them through the door. Also, some people may not want to even answer the door, but I recommend that you do talk to them, because they could be checking to see if somebody's home. So if you don't say anything, they think, oh, nobody's home. So a lot of times they'll go around to the back of the house and kick the door in. So definitely talk to them through the door, just tell them you're not interested,
I was just going to mention another one that's actually happened to us years ago. We were robbed in the middle of the day, and this was in Dallas, and the police informed us that this is a common thing. The thief is gonna look for neighborhoods where a lot of the cars are SUVs. They've got little things with their families, you know, pictures of their families, whatever, on the back. And then they can say, okay, they're gonna be out of the house, driving carpool at this time and this time. And then they just go backyard, backyard, backyard in those neighborhoods for looking for a house where doors open or windows open and they can get in. And then, so they target that. So they actually told us, try not to put those on the backs of your car. You know, don't advertise that you've got a young family, because that is something else that the thieves will target, is because they know the carpooling and everything else.
Thanks for that.
Pretty crafty.
Officer, well, what about the people who are targeting you and might see you outside, you know, work in your yard, and then they just try to gain trust, you know, over time? And I know even with health caregivers, how do you know? I mean, is there any, you just have to do your research up front?
Do your
When
research.
someone-
If somebody comes to you with something and it sounds good, you know, just say, okay, yes, I'll check into it. But, you know, if somebody suggests something to you, says, this is our company, this is what we do, like, they come by and see you have a dent in your car, and they say, oh, I can fix that for you. You know, it'll only cost $100. And so then they make some drills, holes in your car, try to pop out the dent. Then they patch it up, and it does not look good, and then they still want their $100. And we even had a gentleman that didn't have the money on him, so he went to his ATM to get money out to pay him. And the two guys were standing back behind him. So somebody said, this doesn't look right. This guy, you know, is trying to use the ATM, and two guys are behind him. You know, we think he might be under duress, and so we caught up with him and talked to him, and they did try to fix his vehicle. He was trying to get money, but he forgot his PIN number. So, and then we talked to the guys that were fixing his vehicle, and they said, well, you know, we don't want to take his last $100, you know, that we won't charge him, you know, we'll be on our way. And we said, that's a good idea, yeah, so.
I've also encountered contractors that give you a price that's too good to be true,
Yes.
and usually it is.
Yes, yes, we've had people come and, you know, see that you have damage to your roof. And they say, oh, well, we can go up, check it out. They'll go up and check it out, come back and say, okay, we can fix your leaky spots or the bad spots, you know, and it'll only cost you a couple $100. And they come back and say, we've done the work, you should be good to go. And next thing they know, that they just made the problem worse. So.
Yeah, on one situation, they had charged half of what, you know, to get started, and then they just made a mess and then disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yeah. So that's when referrals are very valuable to go
I was gonna say, the other thing is, you know, some of your partners up there, the Senior Blue Book,
Yes.
Other groups like that do vet the providers to make sure that, you know, if you're looking for an in-home healthcare provider, you know, you can go there and see 5 or 10 listed, and then you can go do a little bit of research online, see what the ratings are on the national level, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm a contractor of sorts, but make sure whoever you have come in your home not only says they have insurance, but can provide you with a certificate of insurance that's recent, because they'll say they have insurance, they'll give you a certificate of insurance, and it's from, you know, 98. Well, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you have a problem now. Because, you know, in our business, we're removing furniture, and, you know, you hire the cheapest guy, and he'll take out the door frame on his way out the door. And then, you know, you're gonna try to get him to pay for it, and that's not gonna happen. So, it's just doing a little bit of research, you know, and not always going with the lowest and cheapest price, because you often get what you pay for.
And exploitation, any talks on that? Does anyone have any tips on how not to be exploited? Because I know 75% of family members are it said that statistically, I got that word out, thank you, is 75% of family members that are exploiting their elderly. Anything that can be done about that? Or how,
you
what's
know,
the best way to
that's a-
prevent?
Yeah, so usually when that happens, you know, you have the person that can't manage their own things, and then they're getting help from family members. So, yes, that's definitely a problem, you know, because those close to you, you think you can trust them,
Right.
you know, to help you with this. So in my profession, when we come across something that we have concerns about, somebody may be taking advantage of somebody, then we make a referral to family services to kind of check on them and see what they think.
Well, with their caseload being so heavy, does that ever really help?
You know, yeah, so once we make the referral, we don't know the outcome. So we're not sure, unless we get more calls, you know, about the person and somebody possibly taking advantage of them.
Yeah, and when it comes to funds, and assuming that's kind of the direction you were talking about, like with funds that are in accounts and taking advantage of their, if you were close with one relative and they're helping you, but maybe try to get more than just the one, and then also don't let them have full access to your account. You guys, I've seen, especially in estate transactions that have gone bad after somebody has passed away, where one child had full access to the accounts, the other ones did not, and things happen. So have that stuff, everything's set up in advance, where, and no, don't give access to those accounts or anything to those that you think are helping you. We all love to think that everybody's heart is in the right place, but sometimes it's not.
If you have a situation where, say, there's an elderly person and they're moving into a retirement home, so they're selling their home, but they're at a point where they're not really all that comfortable on their own, so they bring in, let's say, a child to help them with that. At that point, would you require a power of attorney, or because the individual is there, would you say, well, they're here, so we'll, you know, accept what the adult child is telling us? How does it?
So if it was a real estate transaction and the seller was still, we say competent, then the son or daughter, whoever's there with them, that's saying, oh no, they're really not all. So what we do as a notary, notarizing the documents, I would require at least 2 witnesses besides the relatives in the room with us while signing the documents. If there was a medical power of attorney for the parent, then what we have to do is confirm with the doctor, get a letter from the doctor stating that they really are not competent and cannot sign documents. And then we also have to, on any power of attorney, the day of closing or the day of use of documents, we have to confirm that they're alive and well. Otherwise, the power of attorney is invalid. That answer pretty good?
All right. What other questions do you have today? Or concerns?
A long time ago, someone once gave me a piece of advice which is always stuck in my mind, which is never put anything in an email you wouldn't put on a postcard. That's a very simple way of thinking about it. You're not going to write your social security number on the back of a postcard. So
It's pretty big.
That's a good
good.
one. That's
That's
very
good.
accurate.
Yeah. Is there a good way to secure your own home computer to make it safe to where other people aren't able? I mean, different programs that you recommend?
I will be honest with you. I would go back to a flip phone and no IT if I could.
We're might be a little out of the gate as that, but yeah. I'm with you.
There's cybersecurity that you can download for your computer and stuff that it costs, but I would not. I'm not very knowledgeable on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't make a recommendation, but there are free ones out there that you can put on your computer. You don't have to pay for a service.
Yeah.
They've got one, but I didn't know if there was something that were better, or not. Yes, because you're dealing with a lot of financial transactions.
Yeah, we, being the company that we work for, security is a big,
Sure.
that's number one priority. And so to protect your guys' information, that's why the secure emails and our portal is so important for clients to use to protect you guys and all that NPI and then non-public information. We always stress and bold and highlight, do not send. So.
Don't save your passwords. Don't check the box, save password. You need to type in that password every single time. Yeah.
I've
So-
got to book that thing.
Yes, I was gonna say, you have a list, you
I
need an
can't remember
Excel
which one's
spreadsheet
that.
to keep up with your passwords. But yes, don't keep it. You wanna type in your password each time.
Is calling 911, what things should we not call 911 for?
Let's see, well, you know, we try to give out a non-emergency number to encourage people to use a non-emergency number. Now, however, with Dallas, I live in Dallas, and I tried looking for a non-emergency number, and they say call 911. So it's kind of like, you know, it wasn't an emergency, but I still had to call 911. But we do get quite a few calls through 911, and you know, we just right off the bat, the operators say, "What's your emergency?" You know, trying to educate them as the calls come in.
So, one question too, something that was common, I haven't heard of it in a long time, but people would like, you know, rear end you kind of thing, and then there'd be some sort of scam that
With
they
the
would
insurance.
like carjack you or something like that. Is that still something that's going on?
Now, I don't hear about that in my area, and I do, I'm in an association with crime prevention officers, and I haven't heard a lot about that, but I know that has taken place where they intentionally run into the back of you, and then there's this insurance scam. They need, their neck is messed up, they have to, you know, go to the hospital in an ambulance, and yeah, so I have heard of those scams, but not recently.
On that, I was thinking you were going towards, you hear a lot in, you know, parking lots, those stores where, especially with women, they'll put their purse down, look the other way, and then somebody comes in there, steals the purse, carjacks, what have you. You know, just be aware, but like I've told my kids, I've been asking your opinion, that when they're walking to take their keys and always have the keys sticking out from their fingers, so if they have to defend themselves, that becomes you know, a fairly dangerous weapon to the extent that it'll at least knock the person away.
Right, I do recommend that when you're walking to your car, you're looking at your surroundings, you're not on your cell phone, you don't have ear pods in your ears, because they're looking for somebody that's not paying attention. Also recommend pepper spray. You can carry pepper spray with you to have handy if you were to need it. But, you know, get in your car, lock the door, and then be aware if somebody might be following you. Because, you know, they may watch people that leave Neiman Marcus or a jewelry store. So, you know, just check, make sure you're not being followed, because they could follow you home and then approach you as you're getting out of your car at your home.
It'll be Kroger before too long.
It'll be what?
I said it'll be Kroger before too
Right,
long.
Really? Yes.
Yeah.
If, with trick or treat around the corner, if someone is at home alone and wanting to hand out treats, is there anything that they should do just to make sure they're okay?
Well, I kind of make sure that the neighborhood's participating. I wouldn't want to be the only one in the neighborhood that had my light on and you have these large groups of kids coming along. So I kind of go with, you know, if the neighborhood's doing it, then, you know, or you might invite a friend over and have a fun night of trick-or-treating, handing out candy. I know, I have a friend that invites people over to her house to give out candy and have little porch parties, so, but, you know, just maybe not by yourself. And make sure that other people in the neighborhood are doing it too.
Yes.
Talking about passwords, I know I was speaking with my nephew not long ago, and he said that he goes to a website and he has lots of passwords, and they manage all of his passwords online. I would be a little bit apprehensive to use something like that.
I would be too. Same reason as before is what if that you hear about companies' information getting hacked. If you have all of your passwords on one site, then if that company's been hacked, then everything's compromised for you. So I'd be very hesitant on that.
All right, well, if that's all the questions we have, they'll be around for questions. If you have personal ones you would like to ask for just a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Here till 11, and thank you so much. Can we give them
Thank
a
you
big
for
hand
having
for
us.
taking time from your schedule?
We appreciate you having us.